Hey guys, tonight we drift into the half-lit world of pirates, not during battle, but in that strangely quiet space between raids. Imagine stepping off a creaking wooden deck onto sun-baked sand, your boots sinking slightly, still wet from salt water. The air smells of fish, sweat, and overripe fruit. Your pockets bulge with stolen coins. Your brain? Slightly foggy from too much excitement or too much rum. This is not the pirate life they write about in textbooks. You're not storming a Spanish galleon right now, sword in hand and wind in your sails. No, you're on shore. The raid is over. The cannon smoke has cleared, and now it's time to live like a pirate in all its ridiculous, chaotic glory. Warning. You probably won't survive this kind of vacation, at least not with your dignity or teeth intact. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. Let's see how many ports we're all tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step onto the dock like it's a stage in the town. Your audience. This port isn't on most maps, and that's exactly the point. The sign welcoming you is either missing, broken, or spelled wrong. The buildings lean like they've been drinking too. A parrot screams from somewhere above. Someone's playing a hurdy-gurdy and absolutely butchering it. You and your crewmates swagger into the port town like soggy kings. You're loud. You're limping. Someone's already singing. You might be missing a sock, but it doesn't matter. Your pockets jingle with silver reals and pieces of 8, and your boots are made for stomping up the wooden steps of the first ale house that doesn't smell too moldy. Inside, the tavern is chaos wrapped in rum-soaked wood. Barmaids dodge slaps and coins. Tankards crash. A fiddle screeches from the corner. You're in a den of rogues, outlaws, runaway sailors, and maybe one overly friendly goat. This place was built for you. You slam down a coin and shout for whatever they're serving. Probably a mix of molasses, spoiled citrus, and something flammable. You don't ask. You drink. You sing. You try dancing. Briefly. Before remembering your leg wound from that musket shot 2 weeks ago. A man nearby boasts about sinking a Dutch ship with just 3 men and a cannon tied to a rowboat. Another shows off a shark bite on his thigh. Possibly real. Possibly just really good storytelling. By your 3rd drink, the room spins slightly. A buccaneer challenges you to an arm wrestling match. You win, but only because he falls asleep halfway through. That's when you notice the walls. They're covered in carvings, names, ships, symbols, maybe curses. You add your own, just initials and a tiny skull. You wonder if anyone will ever read it, years from now, and wonder what happened to you. Outside, fights start and end quickly. Pirates brawl like it's foreplay. A woman throws a boot from a window. Somewhere, a monkey steals someone's coin pouch. You laugh. You shouldn't laugh, because that was your coin pouch. But you're too far gone to care. By midnight, you've lost track of who's from your crew and who's just really convincing with an eye patch. You might be singing sea shanties with a man who claims to be Blackbeard's cousin, or trading insults with a kid who definitely isn't old enough to be drinking. But nobody checks IDs in pirate towns. And yet, beneath the chaos, there's a system, an unspoken code. You don't touch another man's weapon. You don't spill someone's drink without offering your own. And you definitely don't mention someone's last failed raid unless you want a broken nose. Historians still argue whether these pirate towns were true anarchies or makeshift democracies. But what's clear is they worked somehow. These were ecosystems of survival, places that thrived on stolen goods, loose morals, and fast talk. One mainstream fact? Places like Nassau, Port Royal, and Tortuga were infamous pirate hubs in the 17th and 18th centuries, bursting with stolen wealth, makeshift laws, and enough rum to drown a fleet. Fringe tidbit? Some towns had unofficial pirate mayors, local figures who weren't elected but were respected enough, or scary enough, to settle disputes with a look and a loaded pistol. So as you sway back toward the dock, half-full tankard in hand, you realize you've survived your first few hours on land. Barely. You've bruised your knee, lost your hat, and possibly agreed to arm wrestle a goat in the morning. But you've also laughed, lived, and remembered what it feels like to not be running from cannonballs. And for now, that's enough. The sun stabs at your eyes like it holds a personal grudge. Morning in a pirate port doesn't begin so much as ambush you. You groan, sit up in a bed that doesn't belong to you, and immediately check that you still have your boots and both earrings. Good enough. Outside, the market is already buzzing. If buzzing were a mix of shouting, haggling, goat bleating, and the occasional pistol being fired into the air, just to make a point. Welcome to the bazaar of bad decisions, where pirates spend their blood-stained coin on everything they don't need, and a few things they really shouldn't touch. Your first stop? A merchant stall so packed with fabrics, it looks like a peacock exploded. You spot silk scarves, stolen uniforms, Turkish sashes, and one hat with a suspicious amount of feathers. You buy it. You instantly regret it. You keep it anyway. Next stall, food. You grab something that might have once been chicken and now vaguely tastes like regret. Still, it's hot, and it's not weevil-infested hardtack, so you chew with suspicious gratitude. One crewmate buys a parrot. Another is trying to buy back a parrot he drunkenly sold the night before. A third is holding up a bottle labeled Sea Serpent Elixir and asking if it makes your beard grow faster. Spoiler, it doesn't. It burns. A few paces down, you see a row of teeth laid out like pearls. Human? Animal? No one knows. A toothless woman offers you one in exchange for a song. You sing the first verse of Drunken Sailor and walk away with a molar that might be cursed. Standard trade, really. Historians still argue whether pirates truly lived lavishly between raids or simply spent everything in chaotic bursts. Evidence suggests both. Some saved. Most didn't. You? You spend like your ship's sinking tomorrow. That's sort of the point. Mainstream fact. Pirates often spent their shares quickly. On clothes, alcohol, weapons, and charms, fueled by the knowledge that another successful raid was never guaranteed. And here's your fringe tidbit. Certain ports had traveling merchants who specialized just in selling to pirates. Need a forged Spanish passport? A legit map to buried treasure? How about dried monkey paws, for luck? All available. No questions asked. Down another row, you pass the surgeon's stall. He's got scalpels, leeches, and a sign that reads, "Will remove limbs or curses. Half price if you scream." You keep walking. Then, weapons. Oh, the weapons. Cutlasses with fancy hilts, daggers with emeralds on the pommel, pistols with handles made of bone. You lift one. Heavy, old, and probably stolen from a French officer who no longer needs it. You buy it. Just holding it makes you stand straighter. Near the dock, there's a woman selling charms. Glass beads, folded parchment, even bits of whale tooth. "This one's from the deep," she whispers, holding up a stone that hums faintly. You touch it. It's cold. You buy it and tell yourself it's for luck. Not because the way she said "from the deep" made your spine twitch. You pass a crewmate getting a tattoo by a man who uses a sharp stick, soot, and some kind of pungent oil. It's a kraken coiling around an anchor. Beautiful, infection-prone, iconic. Another pirate is bartering for boots. His current ones are missing soles. The cobbler insists the new ones once belonged to a general. The pirate doesn't care. They fit. Then someone shouts, "They've got sugar!" And suddenly, everyone's sprinting. Sugar is rare, valuable, and makes rum taste like less of a crime. You join the mob, elbowing past a donkey, 2 drunk sailors, and a boy holding a snake. You don't even like sugar that much, but it's the principle. You walk away with a sack of brown crystals and zero idea how you'll get it back to the ship. Someone offers to carry it for a coin. You agree. You'll never see that person, or the sugar, again. Classic pirate mistake. But the thing is, you're not really here for practical shopping. You're here to live. To grab chaos by the collar and spin it into a drunken jig. You buy things you'll never wear, eat things that fight back, and barter for things that whisper when you're not looking. The market is a theater, a circus, a trap, and you adore it. It's a break from the roar of cannons and the stress of storms. It smells like smoke, sweat, spice, and secrets. You wander for hours, swapping jokes with stall owners, slipping coins to street musicians, and giving one terrified glance at the guy with a cage full of rats and a sign that says, "Race tonight." As you leave, your coin pouch is light. Your arms are heavy with purchases you'll have to explain. One crewmate has bought a locket he swears belonged to Anne Bonny. Another got scammed into buying a jar labeled Ghost Wind. No one knows what it does, but it hisses when opened. You all agree that's probably fine. By now, the day is fading. The stalls close slowly, their owners retreating into back rooms and shaded corners. You pass a boy sweeping up and humming an old sea song, something about mermaids who eat sailors. You hum along. And then, back at the dock, a parrot lands on your shoulder. Not yours. Just bold. It says, "Nice hat." You look at your ridiculous feathered headwear and laugh until your ribs hurt. You're halfway back to the tavern when you hear the unmistakable sound of coins hitting wood, followed by an eruption of groans, laughter, and one very slurred threat. The pirate's favorite pastime, besides drinking, looting, and pretending to be dead to avoid chores, is well underway. Gambling. You duck into the noisy side room and see it in full swing. A mismatched circle of pirates hunched around a barrel-turned table, slamming down cards, bones, and dice carved from who knows what. Some of those dice look suspiciously like teeth. One pirate has a coin tucked behind his ear for luck. Another's chewing on a bullet. Probably symbolic. Hopefully. You squeeze in, toss down a few coins, and try your luck. The game? Depends who you ask. Could be liar's dice, put and take, or the infamous dead man's purse, which mostly seems to involve yelling at each other and accusing the dealer of witchcraft. No one remembers the rules after 2 rounds, but everyone plays anyway. Your first win is pure luck. Your second win earns you a narrow-eyed glare. Your third, that earns you a challenge. He stands up slow, all scars and sarcasm, with a saber scar curling from his ear to his jaw. He points at you, then to the open space beside the tavern. "Duel?" he asks, as if offering you dessert. You accept, because you're a pirate, and also because you've just had 3 drinks and a regrettable sense of pride. Outside, the crowd forms quickly. Duels here are technically forbidden by the town governor, but enforcement is flexible. As long as no one dies too loudly, it's fine. Someone hands you a stick. "Practice blade," they say. It looks suspiciously splintery. You take it anyway. The duel begins, not with grace, but with grunts, slips, and someone yelling "duck" when they really meant dodge. You parry, barely. You swing, wildly. He laughs. You both laugh. You both nearly fall over laughing. Historians still argue whether pirates followed any consistent code when it came to duels. Some claim dueling was a form of social control. Others say it was just another excuse to fight with flair. Mainstream historical fact? Dueling among pirates did happen, often to settle personal disputes, with rules ranging from formal to whoever doesn't bleed first wins. Your fringe tidbit: there are records of pirates dueling with loaded pistols, swords, and, once, allegedly, with crabs. Yes, tied to sticks. That story might be a joke. Or it might explain the pirate limping past you right now, shouting about pincers. Your duel ends in a draw, or maybe just both of you running out of breath and agreeing to call it quits. The crowd cheers anyway. You shake hands, swap names, and then he offers to buy you a drink. Typical pirate logic. Back inside, you notice another corner game unfolding. A pirate in red sleeves flips knives into a barrel. Bullseye every time. Beside him, a woman balances a coin on her nose for 10 seconds and wins a chicken. That chicken will become her crewmate's breakfast in 2 days. You know this cycle well. Your boots scuff against the wooden floor as you move from table to table, watching fortunes made and lost. Someone bets an entire necklace. Another offers up a map they swear leads to a cave full of gold, and rats the size of dogs. You don't bite. This time. You try a few rounds of card games. One is clearly rigged. The dealer's eye patch moves every time she wins. A clever distraction. You admire the hustle. Someone challenges you to a riddle contest. You get through 3 before realizing all their riddles involve barnacles, betrayal, or body parts. You lose. Proudly. Laughter rolls across the room like waves. A bottle breaks. No one flinches. Just another night off duty. These games aren't just games. They're practice. Stress relief. Social glue. You learn who folds fast under pressure, who bluffs like a professional liar, and who carries a knife in their boot, just in case you accuse them of cheating. You don't. Not twice. Later in the night, a table erupts with excitement. A quiet, twitchy pirate has just won a pouch of gold by betting his own boots. He now sits barefoot on a barrel, grinning like he swallowed the moon. You walk past a dark corner where 3 pirates whisper over a tiny, burned-up scroll. One leans closer, eyes darting. You hear the words, "Storm Cave," and "Sunken Altar." It's either treasure talk or someone's latest ghost story. Either way, you pretend not to hear. You don't want in. Not tonight. Outside, the sky has turned to navy velvet. The stars are a little blurry. Or maybe that's just your eyes. Either way, it's quiet now. Most of the rowdier gamblers have passed out, curled on benches or using tankards as pillows. One man mumbles numbers in his sleep. Still counting cards, maybe. You pass the game table one last time. A single coin lies in the center. You pick it up, turn it over. The face is worn, edges chewed, possibly bitten by a parrot at some point. You slide it into your pouch, like a souvenir. And, as you leave the tavern, boots muddy, pockets lighter, ribs sore from laughter and friendly bruises, you realize something important. You didn't come here to win. You came here to remember what it's like to be alive between the storms. You yawn. The good kind of yawn. The kind that tells you you've done enough for one night. You wake up on the deck of the ship this time, cheek pressed against sun-warmed wood, one boot missing, and your feathered hat covering your face, like it's trying to smother you into silence. You groan, sit up, and immediately remember why you're here. The ship is a mess. After every raid, there's always a toll to pay, and that toll isn't just in gold or bruises. It's in cracked timbers, torn sails, busted cannons, and the awful realization that someone used the fresh water barrel to bathe a monkey. Again, the quartermaster barks orders as you limp below deck. It smells like sweat, damp rope, and dried fish. So, like every other day, today's job? Repairs. It's like spring cleaning, if your spring cleaning involved actual splinters and a real risk of losing fingers. You're sent to the side hull, where a cannonball-sized dent stares back at you like a wound that still remembers screaming. You scrape barnacles, hammer tar-soaked cloth into gaps, and pray the ship holds together long enough to raid another day. Your ship's carpenter is part genius, part lunatic. He swears by using eel oil on wood seams, and once claimed he could hear the ship crying. No one questions him. Not after he built a working cannon from driftwood, scrap metal, and rage. Mainstream fact, pirate ships were often patched with whatever was available. Animal fat, old cloth, even strips of sail. Port-based repairs were preferred, but at sea, improvisation ruled. Fringe tidbit? Some pirates believed their ship was alive, and naming her wasn't just tradition, it was survival. A ship with a name like the Vengeful Wench or Black Mercy was said to sail straighter, ride storms better, and, most importantly, bring luck. Historians still argue whether pirates treated their ships with spiritual reverence or just practical care. But many journals suggest they'd sooner abandon a crewmate than let the ship rot. Above deck, the sail team works like ants with hangovers. The mainsail tore during your last getaway. It now looks like a drunken ghost flag. Someone mends it with cloth stolen from a noblewoman's dress. It's bright pink. You shrug. Fashionable. Then comes rations. You're sent to check supplies. The biscuit barrels are predictably full of weevils. You bang the barrel once, twice, and wait for the rustling to stop. Good enough. The salted beef smells alive. You slice into it and decide it might still be edible if you don't look directly at it. Someone finds a crate of dried apples and celebrates like it's treasure. In pirate terms, it is. You line up for your share. One biscuit, one strip of meat, and a mug of something that might be rum or might be used to clean cannon parts. You drink it anyway. Your stomach sighs with resignation. Over in the shade, two crew members argue over the last lemon. One claims it's his because he lost a toe. The other says he lost 2 toes and a cousin. The lemon is eventually cut in half, squeezed over rice, and swallowed like it's holy nectar. You make a note to treasure citrus next time. Someone starts taking inventory. Cannonballs, low. Gunpowder, decent. Fresh water, half barrels. Live chickens, 4, down from 6. Someone definitely got hungry. The chicken keeper looks mildly haunted. Then there's the rum, barrel. You tap it, half full. Miraculous, really. You make a mental note to thank the crew member who had the good sense to stash a second one below decks. They're now the most popular person on the ship. The ship's surgeon appears like a shadow with a scowl. "Time for inspection," he says, as if anyone asked. He checks wounds, pulls teeth, and offers something called bitters for coughs. You pass. His medicine smells like despair and licorice. He sets up shop with his rusty tools and crooked spectacles. Someone's getting a splinter removed. Another needs stitches. A third guy just wants to show off a rash that looks suspiciously like it might start whispering at night. You back away slowly. Historians still debate whether pirates' health was as bad as portrayed. Some sources suggest crews had higher survival rates than Navy ships, thanks to their shorter, faster voyages and democratic systems. What's certain is this: no one's healthy after a raid. Bruises bloom, bones ache, and everyone walks like they've been hit by a cart, and in some cases, they were. By midday, the sun scorches the deck like it's punishing you for yesterday's fun. Repairs are mostly done. Sails patched, hull sealed, cannons cleaned. You pause, resting against a barrel, sweat soaking your shirt. You catch the scent of tar, salt, and wood smoke, oddly comforting. A crewmate tosses you a rag. "Still alive?" He grins. Barely. But yes. Below deck, hammocks sway, gently. You sneak in, lie back, and exhale. You've earned this pause, however brief. The boards creak above as someone tests a newly secured plank. It holds. You smile. Somewhere, someone plays a tune on a tin whistle. It's off-key, but soft. The ship rocks gently. For now, all is quiet. Just long enough to remember why you love this life. Even the parts where your hands are blistered, your shirt is ripped, and you've spent the morning arguing over moldy biscuits. You wake to the smell of something burning. Not wood, not rope, just skin, probably. And that tells you exactly what day it is. Tattoo day. The ship is still docked, the deck sticky with yesterday's sweat and today's sun. But now there's an extra layer of anticipation, mixed with poor decision-making. You head topside to see a group huddled near the stern, where the crew's makeshift tattooist is sharpening what looks like a sewing needle tied to a chicken bone. Lovely. "Who's first?" he asks, not bothering to look up from his soot ink mixture. The first volunteer sits, shirt off, squinting at the sun like it owes him money. He wants a kraken curling around a compass. Ambitious. His back becomes a canvas of agony within minutes. You laugh until someone turns to you. Your turn. You hadn't planned to get one today, but that's the thing with pirates. Plans are loose, and peer pressure is laced with rum. You sit. The needle stings immediately, like a wasp made of regret. Still, you bite your tongue and pretend to be tough. What did you ask for? Something small. A skeleton key over your collarbone. Symbolic, or just edgy. Depends who's asking. Mainstream fact? Tattoos were common among sailors and pirates alike, both as identification and talismans. Anchors, daggers, skulls, and religious icons were all popular choices. Fringe tidbit? Some pirates believed that tattoos over the heart warded off drowning, that the ink acted like armor against the sea's pull. Superstition or not, plenty of sailors insisted on chest ink for exactly that reason. Historians still argue whether pirate tattoos were purely decorative or part of a wider coded system, where each symbol meant something only crewmates would understand. As your tattoo wraps up, the artist wipes your skin with a cloth soaked in seawater, and something herbal that stings worse than heartbreak. You wince, then nod. It's done. You now carry a mark of your madness, forever etched into your skin. The medical tent, if you can call it that, is set up nearby, a canvas sheet thrown over barrels to create some shade. The ship's surgeon has laid out his tools, rusted blades, tweezers, and what might actually be a branding iron. He hums as he works. You do not want to be next, but you are. You tore a muscle during the last raid. Nothing serious, just painful. He pokes at your shoulder, nods, and smears it with a paste that smells like old garlic and fish guts. You'll be fine, he grunts, then moves on to someone who's missing a chunk of ear. Medical care aboard a pirate ship is a mixture of herbal remedies, wishful thinking, and outright guesswork. There's no formal training, just experience, nerve, and whatever was passed down from a traveling healer or stolen surgeon's notes. You hear someone getting a tooth pulled without anything more than a belt to bite on. Another gets a bullet dug out of their thigh with a spoon. You look away. Deep breathing helps. So does humming. Next to you, someone's mashing dried herbs into a paste while explaining that it's good for nightmares. You ask what's in it. Mostly mint, they say. And a little crushed beetle. Of course. Down the dock, a man is selling what he swears are pirate vitamins. Tiny black pills made of charcoal, pepper, and ground coral. You pass, because you enjoy not being poisoned. Back on the ship, self-care takes different forms. A few crewmates are sharpening blades, oiling their boots, and rebraiding their hair. One trims his beard with a knife and a broken mirror. Another sings to his pet rat while applying tar to a leaky barrel. You pull out your own blade and check it. Still sharp, but you hone it anyway. There's something calming about the scrape of metal on stone, like a lullaby only pirates understand. Nearby, two crewmates soak their feet in buckets of salt water and crushed citrus. You ask why. Keeps the toes. One grins. You're not sure if he means it literally, but you join them anyway. Your boots have been trying to kill your feet since last Tuesday. There's even a quiet moment when someone passes around a little jar of perfume stolen from a Spanish noblewoman. Everyone takes a dab. No one speaks. You all just inhale. It smells like flowers, cinnamon, and not this life. For a second, your pulse slows. Then the bottle drops and shatters. Everyone groans. Back to reality. Later in the day, you see two pirates stitching up a torn flag, their fingers clumsy but careful. The flag is ridiculous, red and gold with a skeleton flipping a coin. Our new battle colors, they say proudly. You nod. Terrifying. As the sun sinks low, the tattooist starts packing up. His arms are covered in his own ink. Snakes, ships, a heart with a crack down the middle. He looks tired. Tomorrow, he mutters. I'll do the captain's. Someone asks, what's he getting? The artist grins. A mirror, so he can always see who to blame. You laugh until your side hurts. Later, back in your hammock, you roll onto your back and feel the sting of your new ink. You touch it gently. It's warm, swollen, and perfect. A permanent reminder that between battles, pirates still marked their stories, not with words, but with wounds they chose for themselves. You're barely through your first mug of morning grog when the shouting starts. Not the good kind. No dice rolling, no laughter. Just tense voices cutting through the humid air. The sort that makes everyone pause, mid-biscuit, and glance up. You climb up from below deck and squint into the sunlight. A crowd's forming near the captain's quarters. There's movement, too fast to be friendly. One pirate is pacing, another's gesturing wildly. The quartermaster is standing stiff, arms crossed, face like storm clouds. Here it comes. Pirate politics. Pirates may live wild, but their ships run on structure. Captains aren't kings, they're elected. And, between raids, the crew gets restless, especially if they think someone's getting soft or greedy or has just had one too many lucky escapes. Mainstream fact. Unlike Navy ships, pirate crews often followed a proto-democracy. Captains were elected and could be deposed by vote. The quartermaster, often second in command, acted as a check on the captain's power. Fringe tidbit? Some pirate crews even wrote up articles, loose pirate constitutions that outlined everything from loot division to punishment protocols. These were usually enforced by peer pressure, knife fights, or both. You creep closer. Today's issue? The captain allegedly pocketed a bigger cut of the last haul. He claims it was hazard pay. The quartermaster disagrees, loudly. The crew? Split. Half want to keep him. The other half want his hat, his job, and possibly his left ear. Someone brings out the chest, the one with the voting shells. One black, one white. You drop yours in without making eye contact. It clinks, quiet and heavy. Every pirate knows the sound of tension in a vote. Historians still argue whether these voting practices were fair, manipulated, or just another excuse to test daggers. But from where you're standing, it's very real. The captain steps out finally, shirt unbuttoned, boots polished, and that annoying little smirk he wears when he knows he's losing. He speaks, slowly, confidently, charismatically. Too much charisma, actually, like he's rehearsed this in front of a mirror. He promises more shares next time, better food, fewer storms. You roll your eyes, but don't interrupt. You've heard this speech before. Everyone has, but sometimes it works. The quartermaster doesn't flinch. He announces the vote results. A narrow majority wants the captain to stay, but only barely. A warning shot, not a cannon blast. The captain stays, but for now, he walks on eggshells. You can hear the silence pressing against the rails. Everyone's thinking the same thing. Next time, he might not be so lucky. Afterward, the air feels heavier. People return to their chores slower than before. You catch crewmates whispering in pairs about leadership, loyalty, and just how accident-prone sailing can be. And that's the thing. Between raids, pirates get bored. And boredom on a ship with too many weapons and too little discipline is like giving a goat a gun. Eventually, someone's going to make a scene. To keep tempers in check, some captains allow grievances to be aired in public. There's a long board nailed with crude complaints. Someone scrawled, "Stop stealing boots, Barnaby." Another reads, "The Weevil barrel smells like death. Do something." You add one of your own. "Whoever took my knife owes me a replacement or a finger." You don't sign it. You don't need to. The whispering doesn't stop, though. You hear talk of a vote for a new captain. Someone mentions a crewmate named Delgado, quiet, clever, and disturbingly good with knots. Another mentions you. You laugh nervously. Too much attention is the opposite of safety. You slip away toward the back of the ship, where a few level heads are playing cards. You sit down, pretend nothing's wrong, and deal yourself into the game. Even here, you can feel the tension like a ripple in your grog. One wrong word. One unlucky day. And someone's getting marooned, or worse. A sudden crash from the galley draws attention. Turns out the cook just dropped an entire bucket of fish stew and is now chasing a chicken through it with a ladle. Everyone bursts into laughter. The spell breaks for now, but you still feel it, that storm building beneath the sails, not from the sea, from you. Later, just before sundown, you spot the captain standing alone near the helm. He looks tired. The ocean stretches out behind him, glowing orange, waves lazy and soft. You walk up beside him, quiet. "I didn't steal anything," he mutters. You don't reply. You don't need to. He turns, gives you a sad little smirk, and walks away. The wind picks up slightly. The rigging creaks. You look down at your hands, stained with salt and ink, and wonder how long this fragile balance will last. On a pirate ship, democracy is loud, unstable, and occasionally drunk. But it's yours. And that makes all the difference. You wake the next morning to a sound even more dreadful than cannon fire. Training day. It starts with the bosun's whistle, a shrill, judgmental screech that tells you today is not for lounging in hammocks or polishing your new tattoo. Today is for sweat, bruises, and at least one crewmate pretending to faint in the hopes of being excused. It never works. The bosun's heart is made of boiled rope and old biscuits. You groan, roll out of your bunk, and stagger into the blinding daylight. The deck has been cleared, ropes coiled neatly, buckets ready, weapons stacked. It looks suspiciously organized, which is never a good sign. The captain, eager to restore his image after yesterday's near mutiny, is already barking instructions like an over-caffeinated sea dog. He wants sword drills, rope climbing, cannon loading races, and possibly a reenactment of your last raid, complete with theatrical yelling and someone dressing up as a Spanish officer. You sigh, you stretch, you mentally apologize to your muscles in advance. Mainstream historical fact: pirates trained more than you'd think. With their lives constantly at risk, they practiced boarding tactics, swordplay, and quick escapes. A skilled crew could seize a ship in minutes, not by luck, but because of sweaty mornings like this. Fringe tidbit? Some pirate captains made their crews rehearse insults before battle. Psychological warfare, they claimed. A well-timed, you fight like a one-eyed goose could supposedly throw enemies off just long enough for a surprise strike. Historians aren't sure if this worked, but they agree it's very on brand. You start with sword drills. Partnered with a crewmate who smells like onions and vengeance, you trade slow, careful swings. The goal isn't to win, it's to not lose a finger. The sun climbs higher. So does your temper. The bosun watches like a hawk. If your stance slips, you get a rap on the shins. If your form's off, he corrects it with the sharp end of his voice. You miss the lazy days of market stalls and stolen parrots. Next, rope climbing. You hate rope climbing. Everyone hates rope climbing. But up you go, palms burning, legs trembling, mouth full of curses. You reach the crow's nest, panting, just as someone below yells, "You look like a wet duck." "Quack," you shout back, respectfully. Then cannon drills. This part you like, mostly because it doesn't require upper body strength, just timing. You and your crew work like clockwork. Ram, load, aim, fire. The cannon booms, with just powder, thankfully, and the sound echoes across the port. Someone cheers. Someone falls over. Historians still argue whether pirates trained more intensely than Navy crews. Some say yes, pirates had to be faster, sneakier, and fight dirtier. Others claim their skill came from experience alone. Truth probably lives somewhere in between those sweaty, blistered hands. After cannons comes hand-to-hand sparring. No weapons, just fists, boots, and a whole lot of groaning. You square off against a wiry crewmate with lightning reflexes and a mean right hook. Within seconds, you're on your back, staring at the sky. You cough. Good warm-up. He offers you a hand. You take it. That's the thing about pirate training. No one's trying to hurt each other. Not much, anyway. You're sharpening each other, like blades in a storm. Break time is announced, which means 30 seconds to drink water and rethink all your life choices. Someone passes around a jug of something cold and possibly citrusy. You drink first. Brave, a few crewmates sneak in extra practice, tying knots, adjusting their pistols, even whispering strategy. You join in. You suggest a faster boarding maneuver for small ships. Someone nods, scribbles it into a notebook made of stitched sailcloth. These ideas matter. Next time, they could save your skin. Back to drills. This time, boarding practice. A plank is rigged up between your ship and another docked nearby, an old fishing vessel borrowed for training. The goal? Sprint across without falling, simulate a skirmish, and retreat. First run, you fall. Second run, you fall harder. By the third, you've learned to lower your center of gravity and stop trying to look cool. No one looks cool falling into a crate of oysters. Trust me. There's laughter, bruises, and at least one pirate who accidentally boards the wrong ship and is politely escorted off by a confused merchant. As the day wears on, the drills slow. Arms drag, feet stumble, but spirits stay oddly high. It's a strange thing, getting beat up by your friends and calling it bonding. The final task is flag signaling. You hoist a series of colored banners based on coded instructions. It's more complicated than it looks, especially when the wind has opinions. One wrong color, and suddenly, you're signaling abandoned ship instead of sneak attack from starboard. You correct it. Barely. The captain nods. Could have been worse, he says. From him, that's practically poetry. The bosun finally blows the whistle again. End of training. No applause, no ceremony. Just the relief of sitting down on warm planks and groaning in harmony. Someone hands you a half-eaten mango. You eat it without asking questions. You've earned it. As you lean back, you glance around. Everyone's battered, sweaty, slightly bleeding, but smiling. Because pirates don't just survive raids, they prepare for the next one, together. Through bruises and balance drills and accidentally setting part of the sail on fire during cannon practice. That was not your fault, by the way. You rest your head against a barrel, close your eyes, and breathe deep. Salt, smoke, mango. Perfect. You wake the next morning to a sound even more dreadful than cannon fire. Training day. It starts with the bosun's whistle, a shrill, judgmental screech that tells you today is not for lounging in hammocks or polishing your new tattoo. Today is for sweat, bruises, and at least one crewmate pretending to faint in the hopes of being excused. It never works. The bosun's heart is made of boiled rope and old biscuits. You groan, roll out of your bunk, and stagger into the blinding daylight. The deck has been cleared, ropes coiled neatly, buckets ready, weapons stacked. It looks suspiciously organized, which is never a good sign. The captain, eager to restore his image after yesterday's near mutiny, is already barking instructions like an over-caffeinated sea dog. He wants sword drills, rope climbing, cannon loading races, and possibly a reenactment of your last raid, complete with theatrical yelling and someone dressing up as a Spanish officer. You sigh. You stretch. You mentally apologize to your muscles in advance. Mainstream historical fact: pirates trained more than you'd think. With their lives constantly at risk, they practiced boarding tactics, swordplay, and quick escapes. A skilled crew could seize a ship in minutes, not by luck, but because of sweaty mornings like this. Fringe tidbit? Some pirate captains made their crews rehearse insults before battle. Psychological warfare, they claimed. A well-timed, you fight like a one-eyed goose, could supposedly throw enemies off just long enough for a surprise strike. Historians aren't sure if this worked, but they agree it's very on brand. You start with sword drills. Partnered with a crewmate who smells like onions and vengeance, you trade slow, careful swings. The goal isn't to win. It's to not lose a finger. The sun climbs higher. So does your temper. The bosun watches like a hawk. If your stance slips, you get a rap on the shins. If your form's off, he corrects it with the sharp end of his voice. You miss the lazy days of market stalls and stolen parrots. Next, rope climbing. You hate rope climbing. Everyone hates rope climbing. But up you go, palms burning, legs trembling, mouth full of curses. You reach the crow's nest, panting, just as someone below yells, "You look like a wet duck!" "Quack!" you shout back, respectfully. Then cannon drills. This part you like, mostly because it doesn't require upper body strength, just timing. You and your crew work like clockwork. Ram, load, aim, fire. The cannon booms, with just powder, thankfully, and the sound echoes across the port. Someone cheers, someone falls over. Historians still argue whether pirates trained more intensely than Navy crews. Some say yes. Pirates had to be faster, sneakier, and fight dirtier. Others claim their skill came from experience alone. Truth probably lives somewhere in between those sweaty, blistered hands. After cannons comes hand-to-hand sparring. No weapons, just fists, boots, and a whole lot of groaning. You square off against a wiry crewmate with lightning reflexes and a mean right hook. Within seconds, you're on your back, staring at the sky. You cough. Good warm-up. He offers you a hand. You take it. That's the thing about pirate training. No one's trying to hurt each other. Not much, anyway. You're sharpening each other, like blades in a storm. Break time is announced, which means 30 seconds to drink water and rethink all your life choices. Someone passes around a jug of something cold and possibly citrusy. You drink first. Brave. A few crewmates sneak in extra practice, tying knots, adjusting their pistols, even whispering strategy. You join in. You suggest a faster boarding maneuver for small ships. Someone nods, scribbles it into a notebook made of stitched sailcloth. These ideas matter. Next time, they could save your skin. Back to drills. This time, boarding practice. A plank is rigged up between your ship and another docked nearby, an old fishing vessel borrowed for training. The goal, sprint across without falling, simulate a skirmish, and retreat. First run, you fall. Second run, you fall harder. By the third, you've learned to lower your center of gravity and stop trying to look cool. No one looks cool falling into a crate of oysters. Trust me. There's laughter, bruises, and at least one pirate who accidentally boards the wrong ship and is politely escorted off by a confused merchant. As the day wears on, the drills slow. Arms drag, feet stumble, but spirits stay oddly high. It's a strange thing, getting beat up by your friends and calling it bonding. The final task is flag signaling. You hoist a series of colored banners based on coded instructions. It's more complicated than it looks, especially when the wind has opinions. One wrong color, and suddenly you're signaling abandon ship instead of sneak attack from starboard. You correct it. Barely. The captain nods. Could have been worse, he says. From him, that's practically poetry. The bosun finally blows the whistle again. End of training. No applause, no ceremony. Just the relief of sitting down on warm planks and groaning in harmony. Someone hands you a half-eaten mango. You eat it without asking questions. You've earned it. As you lean back, you glance around. Everyone's battered, sweaty, slightly bleeding, but smiling. Because pirates don't just survive raids. They prepare for the next one, together, through bruises and balance drills, and accidentally setting part of the sail on fire during cannon practice. That was not your fault, by the way. You rest your head against a barrel, close your eyes, and breathe deep. Salt, smoke, mango. Perfect. You wake sore, sunburned, and mildly tangled in someone else's hammock. You extricate yourself with the grace of a startled crab and stumble above deck, just as the quartermaster calls for a roll of names. But this time, it's not for chores or cannon drills. It's for shore duty. See, not all pirate downtime is spent gambling or dueling. Sometimes, tragically, it's about logistics. The ship needs supplies, and someone has to go get them. Guess who gets picked? You. So you gather a small crew, toss on your boots, adjust your ridiculous feathered hat, and row ashore with the enthusiasm of a wet sock. Your mission is clear. Find food, fresh water, gunpowder, and replacement rope. What actually happens? A 7-hour scavenger hunt that feels like a pirate-themed episode of a cooking show, with far more swearing. First stop, the water barrels. The merchant you usually deal with is gone, replaced by a man who insists the price has doubled because the fish are whispering. You stare at him. He stares back. Eventually, you pay half and throw in a broken compass as emotional compensation. Everyone seems satisfied. Mainstream historical fact. Between raids, pirates often docked at neutral or hidden ports to gather supplies. They relied on sympathetic merchants, bribed officials, or sheer intimidation to stock up on food, water, and repair goods. Fringe tidbit? Some pirates disguise themselves as fishermen or traders during these supply runs, wearing patched clothes and adopting local accents. It rarely worked, but it made for hilarious journal entries. Historians still argue whether these supply stops were peaceful or veiled acts of coercion. Some documents suggest pirate crews paid fairly. Others hint at veiled threats and accidental cannon discharges. Your next target is food. Easy, right? Wrong. The market smells like dreams and disappointment. Fruits you can't afford, vegetables with worms, and one particularly aggressive goat guarding a stack of cabbages. You and a crewmate charm a trader into parting with 2 baskets of yams and a crate of salted fish. In exchange, you promise a favor to be named later. You immediately regret this. Favors always cost more than coin. Then, it's on to rope. You find a seller who claims his fibers are mermaid hair strong. You raise an eyebrow. He pulls out a length and dares you to test it. You tug. It holds. You tug harder. It holds again. You're impressed and slightly suspicious. He throws in a spool of thread dyed in sea blue. For decoration, he says, winking. You nod like that's normal. You load the rope onto your back and head for the black powder merchant. He's ancient, smells like vinegar and victory, and insists on telling you the entire story of how he lost his eye. Twice. You listen patiently while he measures out the powder with shaky hands and a spoon carved from bone. The powder goes into small kegs. You carry them delicately. No one wants a repeat of the boom barrel incident from 2 months ago. Your eyebrows just recovered. After a solid half day of haggling, hauling, and barely avoiding a scuffle with some smugglers who think your feathered hat is trying too hard, you're finally done. Your crew loads the goods onto the rowboat and begins the trip back to the ship. Halfway there, a shark circles. Just a small one. A baby, maybe. But it makes for excellent drama. You name it Clarence. Clarence looks like he'd bite you out of spite. You splash your oar once. He vanishes. You feel victorious. As you climb aboard the ship again, arms aching, the quartermaster checks your haul with the precision of a man who's been burned by too many almost enoughs. He grunts approval. Then, the most sacred part of shore duty, inventory. You sit in the shade with a battered notebook and write down every item. How many sacks, how many lemons, how much gunpowder, and whether or not it smells cursed. You notice one crewmate sneaking a mango. You let it slide. You do the same. Later, you help stow the goods below deck. The food goes in crates. The powder in its dry nook. The rope is coiled perfectly, or so you tell yourself. The water barrels get sealed and tested. One leaks immediately. You patch it with tar and a prayer. By sundown, the ship smells like citrus, sweat, and new beginnings. There's something satisfying about restocking a ship. It means you're ready. For what? Who knows? But ready all the same. You sit on a crate, sipping from your own flask now. Something warm, sweet, maybe stolen from the last raid. You offer a toast to your crewmates. To not being eaten by Clarence. They cheer. Even the cook raises a ladle. As darkness falls and lanterns flicker to life, you lean against the main mast, legs sore, fingers splintered, but weirdly content. Sometimes pirate life isn't about treasure or tales. Sometimes it's about fresh rope, cheap yams, and not accidentally blowing yourself up. And hey, those yams look suspiciously delicious. You wake with sore arms, a rope-burned shoulder, and the smug satisfaction of knowing the ship is finally stocked. But just as you stretch and consider taking a well-earned nap, the bell rings twice. That means one thing. Inspection. Yes. Believe it or not, even pirates have standards. And when you're sailing a vessel that smells like 10 kinds of old fish and 3 kinds of regret, it's important, every once in a while, to pretend you care about cleanliness. Today's inspection is being led by the quartermaster, clipboard in hand and frown already in place. He walks the deck like a disappointed schoolteacher, pointing at puddles, squinting at knots, and occasionally muttering filthy, like it's a personal insult. You sigh. You grab a mop. You join the rest of the crew in a symphony of scrubbing, sweeping, and pretending you knew that mold was always there. Mainstream historical fact? Pirate ships were often surprisingly tidy. Disease was a constant threat, so crews took sanitation seriously, scrubbing decks with sand and vinegar, tossing spoiled food overboard, and limiting onboard rodents. Well, when they could. Fringe tidbit? Some pirates believed that whistling while cleaning summoned wind spirits who might mess with the sails, so whistling was banned during deck work. One pirate journal simply notes, Tom whistled. storm arrived. Coincidence? I think not. Historians still argue whether ship cleanliness was enforced strictly or only when someone important caught a fever, but many agree. Pirate ships had to function like floating machines, or else they'd become floating coffins. You start below deck. The hammocks get rolled. The floorboards get scrubbed. One pirate discovers a sock that might have fossilized. He screams. You all laugh. Then you burn it, just to be safe. The galley is worse. The cook is asleep in a barrel of onions. Someone has spilled flour into the rum stash, creating a strange, gluey paste that smells like heartbreak. You mop. You gag. You pretend it never happened. Then the bilge. Ah, the bilge. The heart of darkness. The pit of despair. That low, swampy belly of the ship where all the runoff collects. Water. Gunk. Things that used to be things. You draw the short straw. Of course you do. You descend, holding your breath. It's damp. It's slimy. It's alive. Your boots squelch. You scrape, scoop, and slosh. You think something growls. You ignore it. Eventually, you resurface, triumphant and slightly unwell. Someone hands you a bucket of citrus water to rinse your arms. You drink it instead. Mistake. It was for rinsing. Topside, the quartermaster is inspecting lines and knots. One crewmate gets scolded for tying a loop that resembles a pretzel. Another earns praise for his perfectly coiled anchor line. Yours is described as passable, which is pirate speak for not a disaster. You'll take it. As part of inspection, each crew member must also polish their gear. Your sword, dull from drills, gets a loving shine. You take a rag to your pistol, then notice someone has carved a tiny skull on the handle. You smile. It wasn't you, but you approve. In the captain's quarters, the inspection turns tense. There's clutter. Maps, candles, a half-eaten plum, and a collection of small bones no one is brave enough to ask about. The quartermaster frowns. The captain shrugs. They're lucky bones. You all nod, because you want to keep your jobs. Once inspection is done, a whistle signals repairs. Just when you thought you were safe, you're assigned to the railings. A chunk of the starboard rail splintered last week during cannon practice. You brace it with salvaged planks and a whole lot of nails. At one point, you smack your thumb. You don't cry. You just whisper a few creative words into the sea. Someone else reseals a leaky porthole. Another patches the spare sail. One brave soul tries to repaint the figurehead, a fierce mermaid with a chipped nose. He gives her gold eyes and a new scar. Battle-hardened, he explains. By now, the sun is sinking. Inspection and repair days always blur. Time. Nothing moves quickly, except sweat down your back. But the ship gleams now. Lines taut. Deck washed. Cannons shined so bright you can see your own exhausted reflection. Then, the final task. Inventory check. Again. Yes, you just did this yesterday. No, that doesn't matter. The quartermaster insists. So you count. Water barrels? 5. Powder kegs? 4. Chickens? 3.5. Don't ask. Lemons? 7. Rum? 2 barrels and a flask. Someone is absolutely pretending to not drink from. The sun dips lower, casting long orange shadows across the deck. You finish your list, hand it off, and collapse onto a coil of rope like a particularly decorative sack of potatoes. And yet, you feel proud. The ship looks like it could take on a storm now, or a merchant vessel, or both. It smells better, it's stronger, and you're too tired to worry about politics or sharks. Someone plays a soft tune on a pipe. You close your eyes. The deck sways gently. Your muscles ache in the best way. Earned aches. Honest aches. Even pirates, it turns out, need order. Not too much. Just enough to hold chaos together. You wake to music. Not the usual off-key sea shanty or someone humming while sharpening a blade. No, this is real music. Fiddles, tambourines, even a makeshift drum made from a barrel lid and someone's shoe. And that means only one thing. It's celebration night. You sit up in your hammock and immediately regret it. Every part of you still hurts from yesterday's inspection palooza. But a party is a party. And pirates throw the kind that make bards weep with envy and port towns double their watch. You roll onto your feet, splash water on your face from a rain barrel, and head topside. The sun's just dipped below the horizon, turning the clouds pink and gold. Lanterns sway from the rigging. Someone strung ribbons across the mast. No one knows where they got them. You suspect the cook's bed sheets. And there, at the center of it all, is a table groaning under the weight of food and drink. Someone raided the good stash. Mainstream historical fact: pirate crews celebrated not just after raids, but during long, idle stretches. Festivities helped relieve tension, build camaraderie, and, let's be honest, kept people from murdering each other out of boredom. Fringe tidbit? Some pirates held mock trials during parties, pretending to try each other for ridiculous crimes. One infamous case involved crimes against stew and resulted in a man being sentenced to wear a cabbage on his head for a week. Historians still argue whether pirate celebrations were spontaneous free-for-alls or semi-structured morale boosters enforced by captains. But they all agree on one thing. When pirates partied, they really partied. You're handed a drink the moment you step on deck. It's suspiciously green and smells like lime, honey, and danger. You sip it. It tastes like getting away with something. You approve. The music kicks up a notch. Fiddles saw away like they're being chased. A pirate with missing teeth starts a jig. Then another joins, and suddenly, the whole deck becomes a blur of stomping boots and wild laughter. You clap along, sway a little, and try to remember the steps to a dance you barely learned last month. Something involving 2 stomps, a spin, and not falling over the gunnel. You mostly succeed. Over at the makeshift buffet, someone has roasted a fish so large, it looks like it lost a fight with a sea god. Beside it are fried plantains, half a dozen loaves of ship's biscuit, carefully tapped to remove weevils, and what might be stew, but might also be a dare. You try it. It's edible. You drink more green stuff. As the night goes on, the games begin. Knife throwing first. A barrel's painted with a crude bullseye. You throw. It sticks. Barely. Someone cheers anyway. Then it's dice, with bets ranging from shiny buttons to half-rusted cutlasses. One crewmate wins a live chicken. He names it Susan. Susan bites him. Instant classic. Then, of course, comes storytelling. You gather around a lantern as the oldest pirate aboard, an ex-quartermaster with a beard, like sea foam, and a voice like rumbling tides, leans forward and begins. He tells of a ghost ship seen off the coast of Madagascar, manned entirely by skeletons with gold teeth, of a parrot who knew where treasure was buried and kept screaming the coordinates in Portuguese, of a pirate who found love in a convent and snuck away wearing a nun's habit. Mainstream tales, all twisted through years of salt and exaggeration. You add one of your own, about the time you tricked a merchant into thinking you were royal by wearing 2 hats and using unnecessarily long words. Everyone laughs. even Susan. At some point, someone pulls out a violin and begins a slow, haunting tune. The energy shifts, the deck quiets, the sea lulls, and just like that, the celebration softens. A few pirates sit in quiet circles, swapping secrets, polishing trinkets, or writing letters they'll never send. One plucks gently at a lute. Another carves initials into a barrel. You lie back against a crate, drink in hand, hat pulled low. Above, the stars bloom wide and bright. Constellations shimmer like stories yet to be told. You pick out a few: the Kraken's eye, the twin blades, the goblet's spill. You wonder how many pirates once looked up and saw the same patterns, dreaming of things beyond plunder and pain. Then a cheer erupts. Someone found the hidden rum stash. A few crewmates dive toward it like it's treasure. The party's second wind begins. You take a breath, stay where you are. Because sometimes, the best part of a pirate celebration isn't the wild laughter or the dancing or even the food. It's that quiet, glowing moment where you realize you belong here, not just among thieves and fighters, but among people who know what it means to be tired, bruised, and still willing to dance. The wind rustles your shirt, the ship rocks gently, and the stars whisper secrets you'll never remember but always feel. You smile, you stay. The celebration hangover hits like a cannonball to the soul. You groan awake to the sun poking through the deck boards above you. Far too bright for someone who danced barefoot in rum last night and made emotional promises to a chicken named Susan. You hope she's okay. You also hope she doesn't remember what you said. Your mouth tastes like dried salt and regret. Your boots are on the wrong feet. Someone has drawn a tiny mustache on your chin. You've never felt more pirate. Today's job is what the quartermaster calls creative maintenance, which sounds suspiciously like we made a list of all the weird stuff that doesn't fit into normal chores and now it's your problem. You trudge topside, squinting into the sea breeze. It smells unusually sweet. A quick glance to starboard explains it. Someone tied bundles of herbs along the rails, part of the ship's rare attempts at aromatherapy. You inhale deeply. Basil and mold. Delightful. Your first task, repairing the entertainment systems, meaning the ship's instruments and game boards. The drum skin is torn. The fiddle's missing a string. The dice cup smells like someone spilled pickled onions in it and just gave up. You help restring the fiddle using gut thread you found tucked inside a boot. No questions asked. You carve a new die from a chunk of driftwood. One crewmate insists on testing it for fairness by rolling it 47 times. It passes. Barely. Mainstream historical fact. Pirates valued morale, and downtime included games, storytelling, and music. Ships often carried simple instruments like fiddles, drums, and flutes, and some pirates even had designated musicians. Fringe tidbit? Some crews carved game boards, like Nine Men's Morris or chess, into the deck planks themselves, using cannonballs or pebbles as playing pieces. One ship was found to have a full set of dominoes made from whalebone and dyed red with beet juice. Historians still argue whether these recreational activities were encouraged by captains or tolerated as necessary distractions. Some argue they helped keep mutiny at bay. Others think they just filled time between trouble. Your next assignment? Patch the signal flags. You find them rolled up in a canvas bag near the helm, dusty, tattered, and fraying at the edges. You bring them below deck and spread them out like sacred relics. Each flag represents something crucial, safe to approach, ship in distress, pirates on board, obviously, and the classic "we have rum" lure. You stitch and mend using rough thread and clumsy fingers. One flag, the bright red with the black hourglass, gets a full redesign. You add a stitched border of tiny anchors. For flair, pirates need flair. As you sew, a crewmate slides beside you with a bucket of teeth. You blink. Why? He shrugs, sharpens my throwing. You scoot slightly away. After lunch, hardtack and oranges, your scurvy prevention diet continues. You're assigned to inspect the personal gear storage crates. Every pirate has one, a small wooden chest with a lock that usually doesn't work, filled with deeply questionable items. You lift the first lid. Inside, a porcelain doll's head, a jar of blue sand, 3 maps that are just scribbles, and a broken compass that always points to the cook's quarters. You close it quickly. You don't need to know. The next holds a stuffed seagull, carefully taxidermied and wearing a bandana. Its name is stitched on the foot. Sir Pex-a-Lot. You nod respectfully. You move on. Some chests are empty. Others are packed like treasure hoards. One holds only socks. Dozens of socks. You wonder aloud if they're magical. The quartermaster says, "Just smelly." You take inventory as best you can, noting anything missing, broken, or potentially cursed. The list is long. Later, your task shifts again. Now you're repairing the hammock rigging below deck. Over time, the ropes fray, and pirates fall like coconuts in a storm. You've been that pirate. You sympathize. You retie knots, patch canvas, and hang new lines for the latest recruits. One of them insists on sleeping diagonally to absorb moonlight better. You don't ask, you just nod. As you finish tightening the last line, the ship lurches slightly, a sudden swell rocking the hull. You brace yourself, catch your balance, and chuckle. The sea reminds you she's still here, still wild, still watching. Back above deck, someone has started painting the main mast. Yes, painting it. They claim it's for good luck. They've smeared on streaks of blue and green in swirling patterns, adding little white dots for stars. You help, half laughing, until your hands are stained like a map of the sky. You step back. It looks ridiculous. It also looks perfect. Near the helm, the ship's bell gets a polish. A different crewmate is cleaning the nameplate, carefully carving over the faded letters. The Wanderer's Whisper. A beautiful lie, considering your last raid was loud enough to wake the governor's dog. As dusk approaches, creative maintenance day winds down. Your hands are sticky with glue, sap, paint, and whatever was in that bucket marked, "Do not open." You feel tired in the bones, but in a good way. You sit beside the patched fiddle and pluck a few notes. Not a tune, just the sound of strings vibrating in the salt air. A few others gather around, nodding to the rhythm. Someone hums. Someone else tosses you a cold biscuit. You bite it. Rock hard. You chew anyway. Pirate life. In this quiet moment, you realize something. All this odd work, sewing flags, polishing bells, carving dice, it's not just busy work. It's identity. It's ownership. It's turning a leaky, creaking death trap into a home. Because pirates may raid ships, but between raids, they build them. By the time morning light filters down the mast, you've already been summoned to the forecastle by a raspy voice that means business. The navigator wants you. You drag yourself over, boots unlaced, biscuit in hand. He's hunched over his sea charts, compass spinning like a dancer with no partner, and his brow furrowed so deep you could store spare gold in it. "We're going nowhere," he grunts, which, in pirate terms, is code for, "It's time to plan the next raid." You settle in beside him. The table is covered in stained maps, sea-worn logs, and a piece of driftwood shaped vaguely like a walrus. You push that aside. The real business begins. Mainstream historical fact: pirates didn't pick their targets randomly. They tracked merchant shipping routes, watched tide patterns, and sometimes even bribed port officials for schedules. A good navigator was worth more than gold. Fringe tidbit? Some pirates read omens in the waves. Swirls meant ambushes. Sudden gusts meant treasure. And if a gull pooped on your shoulder before a meeting, well, that was just good luck. You're not taking any chances. You grab a spare hat just in case. Historians still argue whether pirate maps were truly strategic or wildly improvised. Some recovered journals show detailed plans and tracking. Others suggest pirates followed gossip, rumors, or the direction the wind felt just right. You and the navigator pore over shipping lanes. The Spanish silver fleets? Too risky right now. British merchantmen? Promising. The navigator circles a point off the Bahama banks, known for sluggish ships and sugar cargo. You nod. Sweet and profitable. But planning isn't just where, it's how. So begins the raid rehearsal. Yes, pirates rehearse. Surprise. You call a few senior crew to the quarterdeck and map the hypothetical. You draw a merchant ship with chalk. "We come from windward," someone suggests. "Too expected," says another. Port side, low sun, blinds the lookout. You like that. You divide the crew into boarding teams. Assign roles. Who swings over first? Who secures the helm? Who checks below deck for hidden guards or screaming parrots? Last time, you forgot about the parrot. Never again. The quartermaster suggests practicing a new boarding maneuver. 2 skiffs from behind, full sail from the front, like pincers. You all like the sound of that. Someone names it the crab hug. It sticks. Unfortunate. Next comes disguise strategy. You decide on flying false colors, a tactic both common and controversial. Pretend to be a merchant, close the distance, then drop the ruse. It's effective. It's deceptive. It's very pirate. Someone even suggests wearing uniforms stolen from a previous raid. Navy blue coats, fancy boots, sashes. You try one on. It itches. You still pose dramatically in it. With the raid structure sketched out, you work on the exit plan. Always the most important part. Because stealing treasure is fun. But keeping it? That's where pirates earn their coin. You pick a retreat route, past a hidden cove, one only the navigator knows by heart. You'll stash supplies there ahead of time. Plan B, in case the wind turns or the Navy gets nosy. The cook offers to hide gold in barrels of salted pork. No one questions the pork, he explains ominously. Everyone agrees. Then comes the weapon check. You and a handful of crew haul up the armory crates. Pistols, cutlasses, boarding axes. Flintlocks cleaned, powder flasks topped off. Someone tests a musket and hits a seagull-shaped cloud. Everyone cheers. The cloud, unbothered, floats on. There's one cannon that needs repositioning. Angle too tight, recoil too hard. You help unbolt and haul it 6 inches to the left. It takes 4 of you and a lot of grunting. Cannon placement is an art, apparently. You admire your work like it's a museum piece. Later, you rehearse hand signals. Silent communication during raids is key, especially if shouting would give you away. A closed fist means hold. A flick of the wrist means move. 2 fingers raised? Duck. Fast. You practice until your hands cramp. And then, as the sun starts to lower and the plan sits drying in ink, You walk to the forecastle again. The navigator hasn't moved. He's redrawing the charts, smoothing out wind routes, calculating tides with tiny seashells. He looks like a wizard trapped in parchment. Storm brewing westward, he mutters. Of course there is. You ask about timing. He says 2 days, max. That's your window. After that, the seas go wild. You thank him and retreat before he starts mumbling to the compass again. You gather the crew one last time. The plan is explained slowly, clearly. You walk them through each move. Where to stand, when to strike, how to avoid the powder room if things get fiery. They listen, mostly. A few draw their parts in the sand with sticks. Others pantomime their roles. One even builds a model out of biscuits. You're weirdly impressed. As night drapes over the ship, lanterns flicker on. The air smells of salt and oil. You sit back, arms crossed, staring at your shipmates. They're loud. They're scarred. One is probably asleep standing up, but they're ready. Because between raids, pirates don't just wait. They plan. The morning comes heavy with mist. You wake early. No bell, no boots stomping the deck above. Just the soft creak of wood and the distant splash of a dolphin that may or may not be mocking you. The ship feels still. Not lazy, just poised. Like a match held over dry rope, waiting for the flick. Today is for mental preparation. The raid is tomorrow. There's a different kind of electricity on board. Quieter, but sharper. You sense it in every step, every glance, every careful knot. No one says it aloud, but you all know. Once the sails drop and the wind shifts, there's no rewinding. You start with a routine check. Not of equipment, but of people. You pass by hammocks and crates and coils of rope, checking in on crewmates like a pirate version of a school counselor. Only saltier. Some polish their gear in silence. Others sit alone, whispering to lockets or scribbled notes. You don't interrupt. This is sacred space, mainstream historical fact. Pirate crews often held pre-raid meetings to ensure everyone was mentally and emotionally prepared. Captains gave motivational speeches, offered prayers, or walked the deck quietly, making eye contact. They weren't just rogues. They were leaders. Fringe tidbit? Some pirates had rituals involving sea creatures, rubbing a fish scale for luck, kissing a starfish. One record mentions a crew member who whispered apologies to the ocean before every attack, just in case Poseidon was listening. Historians still argue whether pirate morale rituals came from naval tradition or superstition. Likely, both. When you spend your life tempting fate, you eventually start leaving breadcrumbs for the gods. You stop at the helm, where the helmsman is oiling the wheel's iron bolts. You ask him how he's feeling. He shrugs, like I'm standing on a matchstick, waiting for a storm. You nod. That's about right. Down below, a quiet space has formed near the cargo hold. Not official, but respected. A few pirates sit cross-legged there, not quite praying, but not praying. Some mutter in different languages. Others just breathe. You take a spot nearby, close your eyes, and for a few minutes, the ship holds its breath with you. Then come the practical rehearsals. You don't shout. You murmur, point, walk, motion. The goal is not to burn energy, but to sharpen it. Like whetting a blade, one slow stroke at a time. You retrace your route. Climb, drop, sprint, swing. You time how long it takes to get from deck to crow's nest. You check for loose boards that could trip you mid-run. You double tie your boots. You ask a friend to fake a sword clash with you. 3 times. Then again, blindfolded. It's humbling. Lunch is quiet. A stew of lentils, seaweed, and something suspiciously crunchy. You eat it all. No one complains. You need the fuel. Afterward, you visit the ship's vault, a half-hidden compartment near the bilge where a few shared treasures are kept safe. Not gold, but goods, bandages, extra powder, dry tinder, spare flint, one perfectly folded coat with a clean collar. It's comforting. It's home insurance. You restock your pouch, 1 pistol, 1 dagger, a tin of salt-soaked raisins, and a folded page from your old captain's journal. Just his name, scribbled over a map of a place that doesn't exist anymore. It's enough. Back on deck, the sails are being checked again. The rigging's retightened. Someone's patching a tier that was already patched 3 times. A crewmate hums a slow tune as he sharpens his cutlass. The same 6 notes, over and over. It sticks in your head. You hum along. Then the captain appears. No speech, no fanfare. Just him, walking the line. He nods to you. You nod back. That's the speech. In the final hour before dusk, the crew gathers near the stern rail. One of the younger pirates asks if he can read a poem. Everyone laughs, then lets him. It's bad, but it's heartfelt. It's about the sea and death and rum and stars and possibly shoes. No one's sure. You all clap anyway, because it's not about the rhyme. It's about the rhythm, the shared breath. The sun dips low. The navigator climbs the crow's nest and confirms. Wind will hold. Clouds to the north, but nothing dangerous. The tide favors a dawn departure. You feel it now. The pulse, the drumbeat. One last moment. You return to your hammock. Tuck a seashell beneath your pillow. A tiny, silly gesture. But it reminds you of home, or at least of a calmer day. You listen as the night deepens, the slap of waves, the whisper of sailcloth, the occasional cough from someone dreaming badly. You whisper something back. To the sea, to the ship, to no one. Tomorrow, you become something wild again. But tonight, you are still. The sky is the color of bruised silk when you rise. No orders are shouted. No bells clang. The crew moves like ghosts, silent and sharp, like a school of fish that knows the shark is near. You lace your boots in double knots, slide your pistol into its sash, and check your cutlass for the 6th time. Today is raid day. But not yet, because this isn't the raid. This is the hours before. The space where pirates wait, watch, and run through it all again in their heads, hoping muscle memory holds when panic shows its teeth. You step onto the deck. Everyone's already in position, pretending not to glance at the horizon, where a fat little merchant ship bobs, oblivious. It looks too slow to outrun a rumor, let alone you. But she's still too far. The wind isn't right yet. So, you wait. And waiting? That's the hardest part. Mainstream historical fact. Many pirate raids involved long stretches of trailing a target first, sometimes hours, sometimes days. They waited for the right wind, the right angle, the right dose of luck. Attacking too early meant disaster. Timing was everything. Fringe tidbit? Some pirates believed blowing on dice before a raid brought good fortune. Others tied tiny fish bones into their hair for speed. There's one account of a ship's cat being declared official omen reader, and everyone swore by her tail flicks. Historians still argue whether pirate captains leaned more on strategy or superstition in those final hours. The truth? Probably both. What's a plan without a lucky sock? You break your fast with salt pork and dried plums. Your stomach twists, not from nerves but from the pork. it's always the pork. Up in the crow's nest, the lookout hisses. They've turned. Windward drift. The words pass like lightning down the deck. Everyone tenses. Then, nothing. The ship keeps drifting. Still too early. So, you polish your blade. Again. You check your pouch. Again. You replay the plan, piece by piece. The signal flag will drop when you're within cannon range. 2 shots across the bow to panic them. Then, swing aboard with grappling hooks. Secure the helm. Lock the cargo hold. No fire unless someone panics. It's always someone. You glance around. Every pirate's got their own ritual. One's braiding his beard for luck. Another fingers a tiny, carved charm shaped like a whale's tooth. One mutters the names of ships he's raided before, like a prayer or a curse or both. You tie your scarf tighter. The wind's shifting. You feel it in your chest before the sails do. The captain appears, not shouting, just standing, looking. He raises his hand, then lowers it slowly. The crew spreads like ink on parchment. Grappling hooks readied, muskets prepped. Cannon crews crouch beside their charges like dancers before a duel. You take your position near the bow, heart beating like it's knocking on the door to get out. And still, you wait. Because raids are rhythm. They're tied in timing and tension so tight it could slice rope. A seagull screams, then 2 short bell rings. You know what that means. Anchor raised, sails full. You surge forward like a hungry thing. The merchant doesn't notice. Not yet. You approach from the sun side, your sails low, hull half hidden by morning glare. One crewmate lights the cannon fuse. He winks at you. You don't blink. Boom. The cannon shot slams the water just off their starboard. A warning, a threat, a heartbeat made of thunder. The merchant ship lurches. Chaos. Men scramble. A bell rings frantically. Someone waves a white cloth you suspect used to be underpants. Your grappling hook soars. Thud. Caught on the rail. You leap. Not yet raiding. Just almost. You land on the edge of their deck, boots thudding like the final drumbeat of a war song. You shout your lines, words rehearsed to sound terrifying. Someone throws a sack of flour at you. It bursts in midair. You are now a ghost. Bonus points. Other pirates follow, swinging, jumping, shouting in a dozen accents and cackles. The merchant crew barely resists. One holds up a ladle like a sword. You disarm him with a stare. He drops it and flees. No blood, no fire. Just thunder, noise, and fear. The captain boards last, steps calmly to the merchant's helm, and ties off the wheel like he's docking his own child. The cargo hold is opened. Gold, number sugar, fabrics, spices, one very angry parrot. Classic haul. You shout, "Load what you can, break what you can't, leave them their ship, because you're pirates, not monsters." And between the first shot and the last haul, you remember, this is just the result. The work, the real pirate work, was done long before the raid began. In the planning, the drills, the cleaning, the stupid fishbone braids, and even that cursed pork. The raid? It's only the echo. The raid ends, not with a shout, but with a sigh. The merchant ship drifts in your wake, bruised but breathing. You left them with enough food, enough sailcloth, and more than a few bruised egos. One sailor is still cursing in 5 languages from the deck. You wave. He does not wave back. Back aboard your own ship, the mood is strange. Half triumph, half exhaustion. The kind of quiet that comes when adrenaline fades and reality taps your shoulder, reminding you that all that glitters must now be accounted for. You step over a coiled rope, duck beneath a half-lowered sail, and make your way toward the hold. where the loot has been dumped in a clumsy pile. Sacks of raw sugar, bolts of velvet, crates of spice, and, of course, the parrot. It's still angry. It still hasn't stopped glaring at you. Mainstream historical fact. After raids, pirate crews didn't just celebrate. They logged, weighed, and divided the loot. Shares were distributed based on role, risk, and reputation. The captain and quartermaster often earned double or triple shares, while newer recruits got less. Fringe tidbit? Some pirates refused to touch certain goods. Mirrors, for example, were seen as bad luck. One ship dumped an entire crate overboard after a small one cracked mid-voyage. 7 years at sea is enough, someone had muttered. Historians still argue whether loot division was fair or full of quiet corruption. Some captains were famously generous, others less so. But the idea of equity ran deep, even among thieves. Pirate codes, real, written ones, often had strict rules about dividing spoils. And now, it's your turn. The quartermaster begins the divvying, chalkboard in hand, spectacles balanced on his nose like a librarian of greed. He barks names. 2 bolts for you. Half a spice crate for you. You get a barrel lid with rum stains. Some pirates cheer. Some sulk. One naps through the whole thing. You receive your share. A small pouch of peppercorns. Very valuable. 2 handfuls of rough sugar crystals. A folded scrap of fine green velvet. And a sliver of polished coral. Not gold, not silver, but treasure all the same. You pocket it quietly. The cook gets excited about the spices, starts muttering about stew. You wince. Then comes the log work. Each item must be noted. Bartered goods tagged. Anything meant for resale marked separately. You help tally. Writing in spiky ink. The boat rocking beneath your elbow. There's satisfaction in it, like balancing the universe's ledger with one hand. Someone's already sketching the next port stop on a scrap of parchment. Not for a raid this time, for trade. Selling goods in secret markets where coins don't jingle. They whisper. But that's later. Right now, the ship slows. The sails slacken. You're drifting into quiet waters. A cove protected by a line of jagged rocks that keeps out most trouble and nearly all Navy patrols. A favorite hiding spot. The captain orders anchor. The crew breathes again. You slide down onto a barrel and close your eyes for a moment. Then something lands on your shoulder. It's the parrot. You freeze. It squawks once, as if to say, "We're not done." You nod. You agree. Because even now, even after the raid, there's still work. Loot must be stashed. The ship cleaned. Wounds tended. Not just the bleeding kind. Some pirates unwind with a bottle. Others nap under the sails. You take a walk along the deck, shoes off, feeling the warm wood beneath your feet. You pass 2 pirates singing a lullaby to a bag of cloves. You smile. And then, the sun starts to dip. Lanterns are lit. A pot simmers. You smell cinnamon and garlic. You hope for mercy. The wind dies almost entirely, and the crew, your crew, gathers at the stern, watching the sky bleed from orange to indigo. No singing, no games, just stillness, contentment. One pirate strums a soft chord on a cracked lute. Someone sets down a small carved figure, a mermaid with a missing arm, at the edge of the railing. An offering? Maybe. Or a thank you. You think of everything you did between this raid and the last. The drills, the fishbone braids, the cabbage trials, the mop water, the fiddle string repairs. It wasn't wasted. None of it. Because what pirates do between raids isn't just about staying alive. It's about staying ready, staying human, staying a little weird. And now, In this last moment of calm, your story softens. The waves hush against the hull now, steady and slow, like the sea itself has decided to hum you to sleep. The deck creaks with familiar warmth beneath your feet, each board worn soft by storms and laughter. The stars blink into place, one by one, scattered across the velvet sky like spilled coin. You breathe in the salt air, and it no longer smells of sweat or smoke, but of peace and wood and distant islands. A low whistle rises from a crewmate's lips, drifting across the ship like a lullaby no one remembers learning. Somewhere, the parrot nestles into the crook of a hammock and, mercifully, goes quiet. The captain leans against the helm, coat undone, hair moving gently in the breeze, eyes not looking outward anymore, but up, toward constellations named by those long gone. And you? You stretch out on a coil of rope, hands behind your head, heart beating slower now. The ship rocks gently beneath you, a cradle built of ambition and stubborn dreams. Everything around you settles, not into silence, but into comfort, into knowing. You made it through the chaos, through the work, through the waiting, and now the raid is behind you. Just another tale to add to the ones whispered under lanterns and sung into the wind. Your eyelids fall heavy. The sea sways you softly. And the stars, quiet, witnesses to it all, watch over you. Sleep easy, sailor. The next adventure can wait.